Shabbat Shalom, everybody. Welcome to this sermon for Parshat Emor. It actually references a mitzvah that we're dealing with this time of year. And when we look at it closely and ask a few questions about it, these can lead us to astonishing revelations about ourselves and our world. So to begin at the beginning, it says in a parasha, Usfartem lochem mimocharas hashabos, miyom aviachem es omer hatnufa, sheva shabbasoit mimoy tihyena. You should count from the day after the Shabbos, from the day that you bring the sheaf that is to be waved, 7 complete Shabbos, until the day after the 7th Shabbos, making 50 days. Now, there are a number of issues with this which the Nesiva Shalom deals with. The first one is, we know that the Omer count begins on the 2nd day of Pesach. Why then is it referred to as beginning on the day after Shabbos? It should be the day after the beginning of Pesach. Secondly, why are the 7 weeks in the Omer referred to as Sheva Shabbosos Tmimos, 7 complete Shabbos? Surely it should say Shiv'ah Shavuos, 7 weeks. Why call them 7 Shabbos? And thirdly, in what sense are these Shabbos going to be complete as we count them? Either you count or you don't. So he addresses these questions in a remarkable way by tracing the evolution of Shabbos itself. And he points out that Shabbos goes through a number of different stages. The Shabbos from the start of creation is largely an intellectual one, where God says, I give you this Shabbos as a sign between me and the Jewish people that I made the world in 6 days and rested on the 7th. So the first idea of Shabbos is that it's something that we remember, something that prompts us to think and to see the world in a particular way, not as an accident, but as something created by God. Now, that's all very well, but we can do better than relating to God through a Shabbos that is entirely in our heads. And therefore God says, I want you to move on from that after Pesach. Pesach is, after all, a time of great love, where, although we were undeserving of God's salvation, God took us out of Egypt with a strong hand and an outstretched arm. He overlooked all the failings that we had, all the impurity that we had accumulated while we were in Egypt, and He rescued us anyway. So Pesach is a time of unconditional love from God to us. And He says to us, I want you to reciprocate that love. Work towards building a beautiful heart for me, for our relationship between Pesach and Shavuos. That's why the rabbis say the 49 days between Pesach and Shavuos, when we count up, have the gematria of Lev Tov, of a good heart, because this is a time when we build a good heart. It also has the gematria of Kel Chai, the living God, because when we build a good heart for ourselves, then we can approach the living God and appreciate Him as somebody who is alive in our lives. So Pesach, we start off with God's love to us, and after that, we move on to our love for Him. This is a new level in the idea of Shabbos, and that's why after that first Shabbos day, that first appreciation of Shabbos that we have, which is just in the mind, we move on to a new kind of Shabbos. That's what the Torah says when it says, after the first Shabbos, you begin to count. Because we're moving on from the first kind of Shabbos in the mind to a new kind of Shabbos, which is also in the heart. And that's why these weeks are called 7 Shabbos, because they are hallowing a new kind of Shabbos in our own minds, and more importantly, in our own hearts. And through our heart being brought in to our service of God, those Shabbos, this new kind of Shabbos, this new relationship between God and us, is indeed Shabbosos Tmimos. It's complete Shabbosos, because it involves not only the head, but also the heart. This then is the work of the Omer, that we move on from the first kind of Shabbos to a new kind of Shabbos, from one kind of perception of God, which is purely intellectual, to a deeper kind of perception of God, something that cannot be quantified with the mind, with logic. It's above logic. It's feelings, it's love. And how beautiful it is that at the beginning of next week's Parsha Bahar, we learn about a third kind of Shabbos, a national agricultural Shabbos, the Shemitah year, that only took place in temple times in the land of Israel in its fullest sense. What is the Shemitah? That 1 year in 7, the Jewish people, when we lived in our land, had a Torah command to leave the land fallow, to not cultivate it at all, and all we could do was pick the things that grew by themselves. And if anybody wanted to go into anybody else's field to get a bit of food, they'd be allowed to do so. And this is called Shabbat Ha'aretz, the Shabbos of the earth. And in a deeper level, we can understand this as a progression on from the Shabbos of the mind and the Shabbos of the heart. The Shabbos of the earth is a hallowing not only of the intellect, not only of the feelings, but also of the very earthy side of a human being, the body itself. We rest, we have a Shabbos for God, not only in our minds, not only in our hearts, but also let that sanctity reach our bodies as well. If we serve God with our mind and with our heart, then we will be led to perform mitzvahs and learn Torah in their fullest sense. And as we engage in this new beautiful life of Torah and mitzvahs in our heads and in our hearts, then our very bodies become holy. Our bodies become kalei shoris, ministering vessels in a worldwide temple that is this earth. So we start off now in the Omer, building our heart. That is a graduation from the Shabbos of the mind, which started at the beginning of creation. But we work towards a hallowing of our very bodies. And through that, the Shabbat Ha'aretz can not only be for the earthly part of our bodies, but also a sanctification of the entire land of Israel, and indeed the entire world, because we look towards a time when through our efforts of purifying and sanctifying our minds and our hearts and our bodies, we can create that beautiful message of sanctity without limits and spread it to the entire world. May that blessed time come soon. Thanks for listening. Shabbat Shalom.